Hi, my name is Jasmine Mahmoud and I'm a committee member of the current Black Artist Award, and I'm really excited today to be talking about this amazing piece of art. It's a lithograph by Romare Bearden called Conjunction. We see vibrant colors of green, red, orange, black, yellow. We see three people meeting in conversation. We see vibrant outfits. And we see maybe what looks like a horizon abstractly represented with orange and yellow, and a yellow sun and maybe a yellow sunset. I want to talk a little bit about Romare Bearden, a really amazing artist, born in 1911 in Charlotte, North Carolina, but as a toddler he moves to New York City with his parents. His upbringing in North Carolina, though, is really fascinating because he lives in a household with his parents, his grandparents, and his great-grandparents who were actually born enslaved. He moves to New York City as a young boy, lives there up until he's a teenager, moves for 2 years to Pittsburgh. In Pittsburgh, he lives with his grandparents who own a boarding house. So as a teenager, he is exposed to people that are miners, people that are kind of working every day, doing kind of blue-collar, hard labor work. His family home, his parents remain in New York City where they live in Harlem, and his mother is an amazing civic activist. She serves in the New York City School Board. She organizes for the Democrats. She gives speeches, and his father also works for the government and is an artist as well. So he's kind of among these like movers and shakers in Harlem. The second thing it's really important to think about with Romare Bearden is his education. And he has this amazing education from his parents and grandparents and great-grandparents and their stories and histories. He also goes to 3 colleges. So the first college he goes to is Lincoln University, that's in Pennsylvania. This is the college when he enters. Langston Hughes has just graduated. It's the first black college, or black university in the United States. And when he goes there, he wants to be a doctor. The second college he goes to, he transfers later to Boston University. And when he's at Boston University, he actually plays baseball. And he was actually scouted by white baseball leagues, and they wanted him to pass as white and play professionally, and he refused. And then he ends up at New York University, NYU, and at NYU he gets really into cartooning. He actually makes work for the student publication where he publishes his cartoons. In 1942, he enlists in World War II and serves in World War II, and then after the war is over, because of the GI Bill, he's able to go to Paris for a few years where he continues to study art and philosophy. So his education is this really interesting kind of mash of locations, Lincoln, which is in Pennsylvania, Boston University, NYU, overseas in World War II in Paris, and really exposes him to a lot of different kind of ideas and thinking. He writes essays about his art, about philosophy. And the third thing that's really important to think about when we think about Romare Bearden is the mediums in which he works. Of course, he starts painting and drawing and cartooning. He begins cartooning in college, and cartooning kind of leads him to all these great places. But later, after he gets married in 1954, and after he's kind of exposed to a lot of artists and modernist artists, abstract expressionist artists, he gets into collage. And collage is what Romare Bearden is kind of now known for. When you think about Romare Bearden, you think about these pastiche of lots of bright colors, maybe gesturing towards figures, but not kind of, not so specifically figurative. And so these 3 things together are really, really foundational when we think about the body and breadth of Romare Bearden's work, the places he lived in the South and in the North and also overseas, his really vast education, and his media. And the last thing I'll say about his media too, he also was a musician. He was a jazz musician, and you can kind of see the influences of jazz and kind of the blending of a lot of different kind of influences in his work. So back to this work, Conjunction. This work was a lithograph, one of 350 lithographs made in 1979. Romare Bearden, to support himself during the day, was a social worker. And so we can kind of see the traces of his kind of work in social work in this work with these 3 people meeting together. We can think of this work as a kind of positive work, an optimistic work of people meeting together, shaking hands, in conversation, in dialogue, a lot of different influences coming together, also in dialogue with that word conjunction. I think Romare Bearden is someone who made art throughout his life. I don't think he ever had his primary living as an artist, right? So in college, was a soldier, worked as a social worker. In the 50s and beyond, he lived with his wife on Canal Street in New York City, Soho. After he would come home from work, he would work every night as an artist. And so he's really kind of someone who his lifelong career is about art in a very kind of on the nose way. This work is called Conjunction, kind of bringing people together. And the current, thinking about the current as this river, as this place that brings people together around Black art. Romare Bearden is someone who worked across medium, obviously in visual art, painting, drawing, cartooning, collaging, but also beyond visual art. He was a musician, and the current as an award for Black artists in the Tacoma area is celebrating artists across genre. And Romare Bearden is someone who I think really represents the kind of vastness and expansiveness of being African American in this country. Growing up and living kind of his first years of life were with his great-grandparents who were born enslaved. His parents were seeking to build a better world. His mother was this amazing civic activist, worked as a school board member, and organized for the Democratic Party. Romare Bearden himself lived kind of around different parts of the US and the world, and always about kind of expanding himself, expanding how he thought about things, thinking theoretically and practically. And ultimately, he was always an artist making work. When you think about Romare Bearden, you can't just think of kind of one type of work. You have to think about the ways in which his work is really beautiful abstract paintings, really intricate and interesting cartoons, really vibrant collages, and things like this, the lithograph, that are showing Black life, American life, conversation, dialogue, and ways of coming together. Thanks so much for joining us on this episode of The Current Quarter. Stay tuned for more.